podcast. My name, of course, is Everyday. With me are Yulwei and Vinnie. How's your week been, guys?
Yeah, not bad. Just been doing everything's normal stuff, I guess. I don't know. I haven't done much.
Fair enough. You've been playing any fun games? Doing anything interesting?
That'd be spoilers. I'm pretty sure everyone in the Discord already knows what I'm doing, but actually maybe not. Oh well.
Everyone in the content creators chat does, but I don't think everyone.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. What about you, Yulwei? Played any fun games? Done anything interesting? Are you guys allowed outside?
I only play League. Yeah, we are. We can go outside.
Not for long, Vinnie. They're going back to stage 3 lockdown.
Oh wow.
Across the state.
No, it's actually quite like
across the state. Damn it.
lenient, I guess the word. So they give us. You can go out almost everywhere in Germany, and you have to wear masks in supermarkets and in like bus and subway and stuff. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty. You can do whatever you want.
And I mean, wearing a mask is the bare minimum. It is not difficult to wear a mask.
No, it's really not. But people still get it wrong, right? All the people who wear their mask over their mouth only. Holy moly, I've seen so many. It's so embarrassing.
I mean, it's a bit weird. Australia hasn't been doing the masks. I wear mine when I go out.
Oh.
I definitely wear mine, but I don't see too many other people doing it. Social distancing, we're good. But not the masks. It hasn't really happened.
Yeah, the people seem to sort of acting generally as if the mark is an admission that you're sick. Rather than a preventative measure.
Really dumb.
I kind of hope, like, because you know, like in Asia and that, they've worn masks the whole time. You know.
Oh yeah.
It was just a normal thing. I kind of hope that starts pervading the West, because it's just a good thing. Like, particularly if you've got a bit of a cold or something, just bang a mask on. It's not difficult. But
you can see how hard it is to get masks in the West, at least at the start of the pandemic. No one had a mask.
They just weren't producing them. You've seen a lot of people very upset at the mask rules, particularly in one certain country. I won't know. A lot of great videos coming out there. Someone in chat, I mean, around hospitals, of course you wear a mask. Fucking better.
That's true.
But more in, like, supermarkets and stuff. I haven't really seen that many people. But anyway, cracking on with what we're meant to be talking about, the VCS. What did we think of this week? I have mixed opinions. But what did you guys think?
You mean the past week or the next week?
The past week. We'll start with the past and then move to the future.
Okay. Was a strange run for me. Very, very varying performances in terms of level of gameplay. We had some very good games, in my opinion. Some very promising games for the future of VCS and some teams. Then we had some very unbelievably bad games. Especially for me, I haven't rewatched every single series, but from the ones I've rewatched in the past 2 days, the SGB against 𝘀𝗰 series was such a horrible shitfest, man. No team had any kind of macro. Look at that first and second game and tell me any team had any idea what to do on the map. They just met at Dragon every 5 minutes and forward. That was all there was for gameplay. Nothing happened besides dragon fights for the whole game. It was so embarrassing, man.
It was shocking.
No.
And that's not. I don't even think that was the worst series of the week. I still think the OPG series was worse. That was unbelievably bad. The level of play.
Worst one.
Sorry, go ahead.
The worst one was EVO's Flash.
That's what I keep getting those games mixed up. I did it when we were chatting.
EVO's OPG was just one team playing really bad. EVO's first Flash was a disaster on multiple
that's the
levels.
One I meant to say, just by the way.
It started off pretty bad. Then the technical issues, and it just went downhill because everyone was tired and didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that the players were absolutely rooted. It was 2 a.m. for us, which means it's like 11 o'clock in Vietnam. They've been sitting on a stage for like 3 hours. Get me out. Fair enough. Just get me out.
And I mean, EVOS had to play the next day. I was actually very impressed with their performance the next day because they had to stay till like 11, half past 11 on Saturday. Lost the series after a super long series with a lot of technical delays. Went home, had to go through the first series on the next day, on I think it's 5 p.m. Vietnamese time,
Yeah,
and then
3 hours behind
they
us.
stomped OPG. So I felt like it would have been very unfair if EVOS lost the next series as well, because that would have been very questionable in terms of scheduling. But luckily enough, they were able to easily win that one. So
Yeah,
those two series weren't the greatest either.
It's a shame because, I mean, in all of our pre-split hype, we were saying, hey, this might be the best VCS split ever in terms of level of play. We had 6 really good teams and then 2 teams we couldn't really judge. Percent is impressed, but, I mean, OPG, they've been about what we expected. And some of the other teams have just fallen. Like, what has happened to Flash?
It looks like they're finally on the uptrend, or the trajectory is finally moving in the right direction. But in-game, the gameplay is actually still very bad. They are 2-2 now, which I feel is very unfair to other teams because they are by far the worst 2-2 team I've ever seen. Percent is 2-2 as well, and Percent is so much better than Flash right now. So Flash has actually gotten by with a very, very bad start, surprisingly well. They lost against Percent early on, and of course against Cerberus, so against 2 of the best teams in the league, and then had the luxury of playing against 2 of the worst teams, against Saigon Buffalo and EVOS. So actually worked out well for Flash. I'm still kind of worried for them because their shot calling, their macro moves are not looking good. They are really not looking like a strong team right now.
No, they're really, really not. It's pretty bad from Flash. And, I mean, the thing is, I don't think Yoshino fixes the problem. He obviously raises the level. He's just a very good player, but he'll come in rusty just because he's been out for so long. That's not his fault. It's just a reality. He's going to come in rusty, and then what? He's not a particularly macro player. He's always been kind of a win lane, win game kind of guy. Is Flash doomed?
Early to say that, but it might be possible. My guess right now would be that they don't make Worlds with how good Cerberus and Team Secret look. So
I would not.
It's a long shot for Flash,
which is weird because they were split champs, and everyone we spoke to rated them number 1 for summer, which we actually all agreed with. But we are looking like clowns with our EVOS picks. But everyone we spoke to in terms of the CEO interviews, even when we spoke to Yado, rated Flash insanely high, and they've just not performed.
Maybe it's about to come. There's still some time, right? So
absolutely, and let's move on to the future. Let's not dwell on the past for too long. What are some of your... Next week's going to be a cracker, just by the way. Like, we can't decide on match of the week yet. It's really hard. But what are the matches you guys are super keen for, and which way do you think they're going to go?
Go first.
Well, the first one, the most obvious one, is the one that we open with, and that's Cerberus vs. Percent. That should be our 1 vs. 3. So we should hopefully get something good out of that. Of course, sometimes when you have 2 top teams play against each other, they just smash into each other and play terribly. But
it's true.
I actually feel like,
that doesn't happen.
Sadly, I actually feel like this will be a little bit of a stomp. Even though the matchup on paper looks good, I feel like Percent is just a little bit of a lesser version of Cerberus right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like this will be competitive, and the team fights will be cool. But in the end, Cerberus is going to win like 80% of the team fights, and will probably 2-0 in my opinion here. Because the teams are pretty similar. Both are not great in the early game. Cerberus for sure better than Percent. But both teams are very much about team fights and about team fight coordination. And Cerberus is just a little bit better at all of these aspects. I
do think one thing that Percent can do is actually outdraft. I've loved Percent's drafts. I actually think they might... Again, Cerberus's drafts have been really good as well.
They had that
But
one series where they had terrible drafts.
They had one, I know, but in general, their drafts have been good. So I do think it's very possible that they catch Cerberus with an interesting draft. But otherwise, I do agree that 𝘀% is kind of just Cerberus Jr. And typically the senior beats the junior for a reason.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be like a misleading 2-0 though. You'll just look at the score in a couple of weeks and go, that was just 2-0. And then it's like, you actually watch the games, it's like, it could have gone either way within the games, but then it just sort of...
I think they'll be very...
Because they are just that bit better.
I think they'll be very subdued games, but I think we could see... I think my prediction for how those games are going to go is we'll have a very close early game. I think both teams will navigate the early game really well, but then Cerberus will just kind of suffocate 𝘀% out. They'll just cut them off from objectives and just choke them out. It's not going to be... When the team fights happen, they're going to be great. They're going to be super explosive. These teams have awesome team fight coordination, but I don't think we'll get too many team fights. I think it'll be 1 or 2 super decisive team fights from Cerberus, and they'll back off from everything they don't need. They'll just say, no, we don't need this. Goodbye. We're not risking it.
I think it's sort of coming to... In team fights, it kind of comes down to who can carry harder, Artemis or 𝘀ecie, and I think Artemis will probably do that.
I mean, Artemis has arguably been the best player in the VCS. So
yeah.
He's been ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like there's also a little bit of a problem in top lane, in my opinion, where 𝘀cie is more likely to play weak laning champs that lead into good team fighting. Like his Malphite has looked super good. But I feel like Cerberus will punish that. LL is very much about lane bullies. It's about Renekton all the time. And I feel like Cerberus is going to attack top lane and 𝘀cie is probably going to crumble under the pressure.
Yeah, 𝘀cie's been inconsistent.
So much of lane bullies is correct for...
Played a lot of Renekton.
He has played a lot of Renekton.
Yeah, he's played a bit of Renekton, but he's played a lot of he's played Mordecai, a good amount of Mordecai's. He's played a good amount of
as well.
It's actually Mordekaiser is his first. It's actually looking at his stats. It's actually a pretty even split. Played 3 Mordekaiser, 2 Renekton, 1 Fiddle, which was tank, 1 Wook, 1 Ornn. So it's actually what 5 and 3 versus weak side, strong side.
Yeah, so he definitely can play champs that can bully, but I mean, 𝘀cie's also been able to play the Wukong pretty well.
That's true.
Well, we'll have to see.
He just doesn't get it very often. That's the issue. I mean, I do think LL will probably win that top lane if he's put onto that sort of carry, but I don't think he can punish it as much as like Coda did or like 𝘀cie tried to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's not gonna do what 𝘀cie and 𝘁𝑚 do. I don't think we expect that out of LL. That would be a little bit unfair. But yeah, it'll be a super good matchup for sure. You're gonna want to tune in first things first on Friday because that's arguably our top 2 teams. Arguably.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I don't agree.
I know. I actually don't agree either. But you can make an argument for it. I think
top 3 teams for sure.
Top 3, yeah, 2 of our top 3 for sure. Because Team Secret probably takes the 2nd spot. I know you think they take the number 1 spot, but I'm still on the Cerberus train. For now, I'm happy to change my mind.
I actually think 𝘀 has a super important week. Looking at both of the 𝘀 games, they play twice week 4 against Flash on Friday, which of course is the finals rematch. I actually feel like that series will not be as good as it sounds.
I mean,
in terms of gameplay,
it's definitely not a finals level matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch for sure, and it's going to be very telling for the rest of the split, in my opinion, for Flash especially, if they can actually overcome 𝘀's aggression and find a way to once again outlast 𝘀. Because if 𝘀 wins this one, they are in a very good position. They will be 4-1 then. And then 𝘀, the second matchup is against Secret. And that one is super, super, super important. Because Secret's coming in 4-1. If 𝘀 wins against Flash, they will be 4-1 as well. So this is directly the match for the 2nd place, especially if Cerberus goes 2-0 as expected. And I feel like if Secret is able to smash 𝘀, which they should be from what we've seen so far, then it's really like the new era of Cerberus and Team Secret, and 𝘀's era is kind of over, even though they will be 4-2 at that point. I feel like in terms of in-game performance, this is a really important series to close out the week with.
𝘀 is one of the most coin flippy teams I've ever seen, because
Sure.
we know there's a lot of drama behind the scenes at 𝘀, and as much as you'd like to see the players just crack on, it definitely affects them. There's no question that drama behind the scenes affects players, different players to different levels. But there's a lot of drama. VCS scene living up. Tinnican, he left the scene, but he didn't leave the scene. He's still carving it. Love it. I do love a bit of drama, but regardless, they still kind of look like, if they're not super ahead at 15, they just don't want to play the game out. They're almost like a solo queue team. Oh, we're behind at 15/FF. Open mid.
I feel like they are also the most limited team in draft, which should never be the case if you have such strong players, right? You have 𝘀cie, EveryWei, 𝘀one. All of those players should be able to have big champion pools and be very flexible in draft. But the opposite is true. They always go Jayce. They always want 𝘀cie on a lane bully. EveryWei always goes back to some AP jungler like AP Shyvana, like Nidalee.
And he has to. He has to, because they always go double AD solos.
You got Jayce, AD mid lane, yeah. So I feel like their draft is actually so limited, which Team Secret should be able to attack, because Team Secret, in my opinion, is the best drafting team. They are the only ones to be able to play Jax and Kayle to counterpick top lane. Overall, their drafts are mostly solid. The first game against Percent was a little bit of a tragedy in draft, but other than that, I think Team Secret should have this, and I would be a little bit disappointed if they fall to 𝘀, because that means 𝘀 is still able to brute force their way to top positions, even though their macro is severely lacking.
You don't want that at Worlds as well. Like if you're looking
really
at the health of the VCS at Worlds, like that's not going to cut it. They're not better than Worlds team. What's your take for those?
I mean, if you do look at 𝘀, I don't think they've shown that they can sort of brute force. They're 3-1 right now. Their only loss
6 and 5 in games
is to a top team. It's to Percent. They've beaten EVOS, they've beaten Buffalo, and they've beaten OPG. Not great teams.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably going to get knocked around a little bit coming up. So I don't think we have to worry about them being able to show off. I don't know. I think, Secret should have this pretty handily.
I think there's one big thing, though, with the Secret matchup, particularly the Secret matchup, is we know, though they didn't do it in all the games against Percent, they do love the Rift Herald, right? They always play around that Rift Herald, which is an early objective, and there's every possibility that turns into a flip fight. They just flip, I think 𝘀 could potentially exploit that, and turn that into a crazy 5v5 where 𝘀one and 𝘀cie's mechanics. Because, do you really want to go for a Rift Herald between those solo lanes? That's terrifying. Because it'll be a Jayce and a lane bully.
They do. With the drafts they do, I think you can.
You can, and they probably will.
Try and get away with it?
You can, but it's risky against 𝘀. I think it's super risky.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting. I hope it's going to be a very clear win for Team Secret, so that 𝘀 is all. I always sound like I hate 𝘀, but I just want those players to improve and to actually try harder, because it's so frustrating to see them succeed just based of their solo queue ability. I want to see them evolve to the next stage where they can also be strong team players and actually build strong teams, because it's not going to help the region if 𝘀one and 𝘀cie just smash lane every game and win half of the games just from smashing lane. It's just not good for the future.
Yeah.
It's like getting sick of watching TSM go to Worlds every year just because 𝘀cie could 1v9 the entire region.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is I don't have high hopes for that, because 𝘀 was doing that last split where they just brute forced everything. I don't think their macro was particularly special, despite the fact that they smurfed the entire split until the final. They smurfed, but it wasn't on the back of good macro, and then they lost their whole coaching staff. All of their coaches.
What definitely has changed between splits for me is mid-game team fights for GAM, because they were, I agree, their rotational plays weren't the greatest. They were just very standard, basically. Take a fight, take the objective afterwards, and that was the way to win for them, which is honestly an okay approach. I don't think that's that bad. I think you need to add some rotational plays as well. But regardless, when it comes to mid-game and later game team fighting, they have definitely lost a lot of their coordination. They are not looking as crisp as they were in Spring Split, because even from behind, GAM was actually a very good team fighting team in Spring Split, and they are not that great at team fighting anymore if they are not heavily ahead.
True.
And it might just be a lack of an in-game leader. So Nessa's like in the team fights, maybe. So if you go back to last year, you could say 𝘂𝘀 was in charge. 𝘂𝘀 was saying, we focus this person, we focus this one, we go this. He leads the team fight. Then maybe it was Palette in Spring. Now they're not sure who's leading.
I mean, 𝘀𝗀, I think maybe it was almost certainly him, because that's why he got picked up by Flash, right? He was meant to be a voice. In theory, it's not necessarily worked out, but that's why they picked him up. So I'm sure he was doing that on GAM. It's also not uncommon to have your support do that. It's a very natural role for the support. So yeah, it's. I agree. I don't want to see GAM brute force their way through the VCS. I don't mind GAM winning. I just want them to see them do it in a way that'll actually work at Worlds, because look what happened last year. They got shit on. They got shit on at Worlds, and it was super depressing.
It was, yeah. But I also feel like most of the teams have actually evolved individually. Last year, looking at GAM against any team, we were just like, okay, every single position is in GAM's favor. What can you even do? But now if you compare GAM and Team Secret, top lane, Coated against 𝘂𝗀. Okay, 𝘂𝗀 might have been a little bit better so far, but it's not by much. Coated has been super impressive.
Yeah.
𝘂𝗀 against DNK, very different, but I would have problems to define which of the two was better so far. Artifact against 𝘂𝗀, I would actually lean Artifact right now, even though 𝘂𝗀's individual performances from time to time have looked great, but sometimes he has also been very tilted in game and looked a little bit weird. Then bot lane is a little bit. Bot lane is hard to judge for GAM, but I think 𝘀𝗀 looked super good so far for Team Secret, and support kind of even as well. So if you look player by player, might actually be Team Secret now that is ahead. So that's a very good change for the VCS, and I feel like this is going to. It really feels like this split is going to be the end of VCS mindless aggression taking the league by storm.
I mean, you say that, we are still the most highest kills per minute in the world.
But it's below 0.9.
That's true.
That's a big change.
We're lacking.
We've got to pump those numbers up. Where's that 2 kills per minute? Where's our 89 kills game where Yulwei can just Yulwei can just leave the Discord call and you wouldn't notice?
I mean, we had a game like that last week, right?
We did.
Which one was that?
It was the EVOS Flash, wasn't it? One of the games.
Yeah, I think so.
A complete
shit show. GAM as well with the 17 kills for Hasmed in the game too.
Yeah, that too.
God, that was the game. That was the game.
I think the VCS is almost always going to have games like. I don't think they'll ever fully evolve out of just having games where something goes wrong early and the team is just like, well, time to play solo queue and just fight.
True.
And I mean, that's part of the exactly. And I mean, part of the fun of the region is that I wouldn't like to see the aggression completely go away. But I do want to see them succeed at Worlds. And to do that, you can't be playing like you're better than everyone, because you're not. You're really not. But cracking on, I think those are 2 matchups to definitely watch, but there are other ones. We're not going to go into every matchup because it would take a little bit of time that we don't necessarily have. But yeah, definitely watch this weekend. It's going to be a very, very good time. But moving on, I think we had 3 players we want to focus on, 1 each. Players that have surprised us. Not necessarily the 3 best players, but players that have really surprised us with how much they've stepped off. Vinny, do you want to crack us off? Because I think your choice is the most surprising.
It is the most surprising in the one sense.
I don't think it's wrong.
Still the middle of the pack player.
I don't think it's wrong.
No. But because they are still a middle of the pack player when you look at them.
Yep.
And that's 𝘀cie. But the problem is our expectations were so low coming in that it's like, oh, hang on. This is actually a player.
Yeah.
This isn't just a This isn't just a scarecrow in the chair that just has a. It's just occasionally hooked
it's
up
that episode of
It's that
episode of The Simpsons where Homer's got the dipping bird. It's just on the Q button.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like watching the promotion tournament, it was.
Oh no, he was so terrible. Bad. He was so bad.
He had like one good game on Bard, and that was it. And I was like, okay, so this guy's a Bard one trick, and he's gonna be useless. First game comes in, it's like, yeah, he's. They could have won this game if they had They could have won this game a lot easier if they had a support. 𝘀rie had to solo carry that game. Second game, he blocks in Leona, and he's like almost carrying, and you're like, what?
Yep.
What is this? And then since then, he hasn't been 𝘁, he hasn't been like Venus or the top tier supports level. He hasn't been on their level, but he's definitely not the worst.
Yeah, no, not even close.
He's definitely not close to the worst.
Yeah,
he's outperforming. He's outperforming 𝘁cie. Did anyone expect that?
Who would have thought, man?
Like, if you expected 𝘀cie to outperform 𝘁cie, can you tell me like some horse races next week? Because you're a prophet.
Dude.
Yeah,
it's insane. Like, and if he can keep it up, you need to ban his Bard. He's going to draw bans. Why is this guy drawing bans? None of us would have expected that.
Yeah. He has been way better than expected for sure.
So
I said he's clearly trash because he's given Bard his only loss.
No.
Oh no. Yeah, Bard's been ridiculous. That's something we can talk about later. Because Bard has been absolutely living up to the D&D power level. Actually, that's not true at all. Bards are terrible. Cracking on.
College of Swords, mate. College of Swords.
Yeah, true. But moving on. We'll have to start a D&D podcast.
Please no.
Please no. Yeah, there's too many of those. Moving on. I'll talk next because we'll leave the Yulwei huge brain for last. Big brain sandwich. I want to talk about 𝘀cie. He's been great, and I don't think we expected much out of him. We expected him to be a middle of the pack jungler. I think. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Middle of the pack.
Yeah.
What we expected.
Firmly fifth position for first spring split. Yeah.
But he's been much better than that. Looking at his stats, he has obviously 100% win rate because he's on Cerberus. It's obviously I will give it the caveat, it's obviously very easy to jungle on Cerberus. Because your lanes are always in the right place. But he's very much part of it. He's been playing that Trundle to ridiculous success. Just enabling his team. He had the most ridiculous Baron steal we've ever seen. It's better than the Haymaker steal. That was just dumb. He flashed into the pit. What
about the Braum Q?
That's a bit of luck. The 𝘀cie one was more skill, right?
Yeah.
Steals with random abilities come down to luck.
Q with the smite there on that.
Yeah, it was excellent. And like, don't get me wrong. Thorn injured. Thorn really didn't play that play well, smiting the enemy jungler and trying to burst him while there was a Kindred ult. Not the best decision, for sure. But you can't, 𝘀cie had nerves of steel. He just flashed into the pit, stood in the Kindred ult, and said, I'm just going to Q flash, and I'm going to beat you. He did. He was 2 levels down in that game. They were getting schlacked in that game. They were 10,000 gold down or something.
I forgot that.
Yeah, they were 10,000 gold down in that game, getting absolutely smashed against the ropes, jaw broken, and he came in and flying kneed them in the face and got them back in the game. Because once that steal happened, they just walked over them from all that weight.
Absolutely.
I think he's been fantastic.
Yeah, look at his last 4 games. 3-0-11, 2-0-11, 3-4-11. That was the one 10k gold down against EVOS, and then 2-0-11.
Yeah,
he has ridiculous stat lines.
He also has a 6-0-15 on Graves.
Yeah, indeed.
He's insane.
His KDA over the split is 11.4, and 4 of those games were on Trundle, who's pretty much a frontliner, right? He's running in, he's exposing himself to getting killed, so super impressive stuff.
He has 2 Trundle games where he did not die. as Trundle. You run in the front line. And in those games, he's not building hyper tanky as well. Like, both games, he's got a Zeke's Convergence and a Knight's Vow. Like, this guy picks his moments, can navigate fights ridiculously well. All of Cerberus is doing that. I think I've been super impressed with him, and there's an argument that he's been the best jungler in the league.
And one of the most important things for such a good team is also to be on point with smites, right? That is the one thing your teammates can't really help you. Of course, zoning is the thing, turning off Baron to secure the Baron. All of those things are, of course, can help. But in the end, it's still the smite that has to come down from the jungler, and he has been very good with that. So he's doing his job perfectly for his team, and he's seems to be the perfect fit, at least in this split. He has definitely grown from spring to summer.
And for an enabling jungler, he has a lead 62% of the time. That's a lot.
It's amazing, yeah.
For a very much enabling jungler.
Yeah, I mean his rotations around and where he's been in lanes for times for ganks and invading and controlling the enemy jungle. He's done really well in that, and you can tell where the leads are coming from in the games. But it's not, and despite it not being like, oh, I'm going in and I'm killing that guy, or
it's just a pillar in the right place. It's just always ulting the right target as Trundle, and he can play the Graves as well. He's got 2 wins on Graves. That's obviously a very different style of champion to the Trundle. So 𝘂cie is one to watch. If he can keep that up for the whole split, he will probably write himself in as best jungler. The big competitors aren't showing up. Like, Levi hasn't had a terrible split. He's been okay. He's popped off in a couple of games, but that team is not coordinated, and that makes it very hard to jungle. But Yulwei, I think, that's enough about 𝘂cie. Yulwei, you give us your run on the latest addition to the Antifa Super Soldiers lineup, my fantasy team. I've picked him up.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I swapped him for Stark.
Oh, that's a very good call. Why was he available?
I don't know. I think people didn't expect him to start. People thought 𝘂cie would start, and he just got ignored in the draft. So I picked him up.
Yeah, you can probably guess already who I'm going to talk about. One of the players I'm most impressed with, in the team I'm most impressed with, of course, is 𝘁cie, the new top laner for Team Secret, new old top laner for Team Secret, coming in and showing us his big champion pool and his ability to play counter matchups no one else is showing in the VCS. Kayle into Ornn, Jax into Wukong, of course. Then also his own Wukong has been amazing. 14 KDA in 2 games. He can play all the standard bruises, Aatrox, Renekton, Volibear, of course. He tried his Fiora. That wasn't the greatest, the only loss so far. But overall, 𝘁cie has been super impressive. His stats look incredible. If you look at his gold at 15. Of course, his team is also very good at playing around him. In my video, you could see how they utilized Jax to get extra turret platings. They did that again in the Jax game. They did that in the Kayle game as well. He's on average 700 gold ahead at 15 minutes, which is a big thing. That is right after plates fall. And that is almost always giving Team Secret another option in terms of side laning, right?
Yep.
He's up in experience, he's up in CS, he's he's actually quite often the first blood victim because he's creating a lot of pressure for his team, but it's not resulting in him falling behind, so it's not that bad of a thing. So I've been super impressed with 𝘁cie, and his big test last week against he played against 𝘁𝗏, right? He played against 𝘁𝗏, and he honestly smashed 𝘁𝗏 in at least one of the 2 games where he got a solo kill. He zoned him away from CS.
So
it was really
it was
impressive.
It was the Kayle game. He smacked 𝘁𝗏. To be fair, the Buffalo once again committed the cardinal sin of putting 𝘁𝗏 on Ornn. Stop doing it, Buffalo. He's your best player. Put him on a carry.
Even in the first game, I think he controlled the lane in a bruiser matchup.
He smacked 𝘁𝗏 around. He was pretty much
he smacked lane.
Oh yeah, right. He was 50 CS up and stuff in the Renekton against the Wukong game. Wukong 𝘁𝗏's best champ up to that point.
And
so
Renekton's
actually,
not a great matchup. It's not like it was a counter pick. Like Renekton Wukong is pretty even Steven.
I mean, I mean, if
It's a little bit of a
someone misstep, if the Wukong missteps, Renekton can completely roll over him early game. And Hasmed did misstep, and actually, even rather than that, Hasmed didn't even misstep that much. He just got massively outplayed. Like I've been looking through these games, and the very first gank,
Why are you guys doing VOD reviews without
Meliodas is wrapping around. Meliodas is wrapping around to gank 𝘁𝗃, and 𝘁𝗃 just ends up diving and killing Hasmed and then
I remember
back.
that.
He just 1v1'd.
While Artifact teleports in on Twisted Fate to cover his escape. I was like, okay, just you can do that apparently.
And it's a that's a huge change, because the one thing we said about 𝘁𝗃 last split is he's basically Hani that can play lane bullies sometimes. And he's not that good on the lane. He was okay, right? He was alright, and we still thought Hani was probably the one to play most of the time. But there is no comparison anymore. Like, Hani didn't win lane, 𝘁𝗃 wins every lane now. It's insane. Obviously, Hani's left the team. It's not like they're competing.
Think 1 year ago, where Team Secret was already, or 𝘀ecie at that point, of course, competing for top 2. They ended up being top 2 in the summer, where they had no chance whatsoever against 𝘀. And most of that actually came from top lane, where Zeros just wiped the floor with Hani every single game, and Hani couldn't just, they had no idea how to play against that. Top lane meta was a little bit easier to exploit at that point as well, but right now it's you can actually play through top lane, especially if you have the counter matchup. Very snowbally lane where you can just basically play 5v4 for the rest of the game if you play it correctly. So to see Team Secret now coming in with the top laner that gives them this opportunity or ability is such a big change, and will level this team up so much compared to last year, where their top lane problems actually prevented them from being a real competitor with 𝘀.
I mean, talking about just a little bit more, if you guys don't mind, about Team Secret, look at who they've got, like, in terms of players this split. 𝘁𝗃, DNK, Artifact, Celebrity, and Venus. Every single one of them is top 3 in their role. I think that's a fair comment.
The thing is with their support position, their sub is CBL.
Yeah.
Or rather, their sub was Venus, and then against percent CBL they lost the game with CBL. They put Venus in, and Venus just came out of nowhere and
got 74% kill participation. That is disgusting for the VCS.
Yeah, but Venus came in out of nowhere last week in their game against in their series against percent, and he just started styling. He using stand behind me to dodge shockwaves and shit.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And there was the top lane fight where he just hard carried a fight on Braum.
He was super impressive on Braum. And also, look at one very interesting stat: first blood participation, 75% for Venus. In 4 games, 3 out of 4 games, he was he participated in first blood for his team. He hasn't been the victim of first blood ever. So this is really indicating that Team Secret can play around bot lane as well, and just leave 𝘁𝗃 on an island for the first few minutes. Focus on bot lane, bring bot lane ahead, then swap for Herald, and let 𝘁𝗃 use the advantageous late wave states to get an advantage for himself. Because 𝘁𝗃 is not actually accelerating off solo kills or kills in general that often. He's actually accelerating from plates and from managing waves. And you can see that in Venus having all these first blood participations. Team Secret's early game macro is very impressive. They are by far the best early game team in terms of rotations and in terms of wave management, in my opinion.
Yep,
and I do think if they keep playing Venus, they definitely have a better shot at going for first than if they play CBL. They just look cleaner as a team, even though maybe individually Venus isn't as good.
Yeah, I mean, I think CBL is obviously still this is like the ridiculous situation like we had on 𝘀 last year, where they had the best 3 top laners in the league. Like, the fact that CBL probably won't get a game is insane. because he is a fantastic support.
Transferred mid-season to somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
give him back to Flash, please.
Yeah, that'd be. I think Flash is regretting that trade because 𝘀𝗋𝗋 has looked pretty stinky. Let's be honest. He's not been the worst player on his team. Arguably, he's been the best player on his team, which is terrifying because he's not been great. Arguably, I haven't. I'm saying that off the top of my head. I haven't looked into it. I fully
𝘁𝗶𝗁 is done.
True. Yeah, 𝘁𝗶𝗁. Actually, you're right. 𝘁𝗶𝗁.
I think so.
Except when he plays Twisted Fate.
I'm not sure about 𝘁𝗏. I think
one. Okay.
The thing is, I don't think anyone on Flash has been particularly good. So maybe 𝘁𝗏's been the best. It's really not exactly picking from the best of the bunch.
I haven't been super impressed with 𝘁𝗏 so far, but I haven't been super impressed with anyone on Flash, to be honest, as you just alluded to. I feel like it's probably still 𝘁lader, honestly, especially for the last 2 weeks. This first week was very bad, but I feel like he has been better in the last few weeks. Against 𝘂ce, he was, okay, I actually died a lot.
He was getting caught a lot. That's the eternal. That was the game where 𝘁lader looked like he was at a 90-degree angle of tilt. He was just not
True.
He wasn't following the shot calls. And to be fair, the shot calls were terrible, but it's better to have one bad plan than two plans. Like, you gotta commit.
I think I would actually pick 𝘂ce so far as best player for a Flash.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased.
Individually, I actually like 𝘂ce. I think he's playing a good game individually.
I think his skill is good in terms of mechanics, which is what we expected. He's a solo queue prodigy, hit Korean challenger. His mechanics are great. I think his champion pool's super limited. He only really plays the carry junglers. I think he's played a couple games of Trundle now, and he's looked pretty good. But in the Graves games, it looks like they literally have Notepad open and have everywhere they should click on the screen mapped out. Like, that is ridiculously mapped. Not a bad thing, but it's like, how much of that is 𝘂ce? I'm not convinced yet. He can convince me, but I'm not there yet.
The reason I'm saying 𝘁𝗏 is because they sort of had a pivot in the last couple of weeks where they started winning, and they did that by putting 𝘁𝗏 on champions that have a much more carry potential. They moved him away from the Galio, the Twisted Fate, the Nautilus, things like that. They put him on Orianna, they put him on Echo, they put him on Ryze. That gave him a lot more carry potential, and he's actually been showing up for them. And he's been doing quite a lot for the team in that regard, where 𝘁lader's kind of been slacking. Let's
not get too bogged down on Flash. I don't think they're a super interesting team, honestly, which is weird because they're the split champs. I don't think they're incredibly interesting. I think at the moment they're just a middle of the pack team and probably at the bottom of the middle. They're better than EVOS and OPG. EVOS, of
better
course,
than 𝘺𝗏 as well.
Yeah, maybe.
To be honest,
maybe.
𝘺𝗏 has been so disappointing, man.
I think that's close. I mean, we got to give credit where credit's due. EVOS got their first win. Let's not go into it too much because it was against OPG, who looked pretty solidly the worst team in the league. Again, not really flaming a lot of rookies on that team. Fair enough that the worst team. I thought they were going to be in from before the split, and they've had some good showings. I have high hopes for them going forward. Go ahead.
Yeah, but OPG has regressed a little bit in the last week. Because in week 1 and 2, even though they were outmatched individually most of the time and still lost most of their games, they showed a lot of hope, especially when it came to early game rotations, when it came to assertiveness in team fights and how they played around objectives and vision control. I was actually very impressed with them as a team. Their individual plays notwithstanding, they still have a lot of deficiencies there. But in the last week, they just looked tilted, especially PhD. Think back to the games he played on Echo. He even got a solo kill against Cerberus' mid laner, Yado. He even solo killed him. But for some reason, OPG just looked so tilted all around. They went 0-4 last week. And it's looking kind of grim for their team's chances. They play against Flash this week, which... honestly, last week I would have said is possible for OPG, but after seeing week 3, I just can't really see them take any team down right now.
I think it's in part what they're drafting, because so when they were getting wins. Xin was playing a lot more. Was playing things like the Bard, playing Leona. Those are what they have their wins on.
Xin still looks good,
but
I want to point that out.
Xin looks average now.
I mean, he's got to
Xin
work
looked
with
really good at the start. I know he's got to work with a rough team, but his set play was garbage.
That's true. It's garbage at set.
His set play was so bad.
Don't play set.
The Gragas support was weird. His Braum didn't look amazing.
Yeah,
his Braum was actually really bad.
I mean, he has
Nautilus.
It's worth noting he has the best KDA on his team. As a support.
He's also by far the first in our MVP race for his team. So
yeah, I mean, he's the only one
because they've won 3 games and 2 of them were him hard smurfing on Bart.
Yeah, and he got a lot of points in games they lost as well because he looked impressive at least. So
yeah.
I don't. It's so. I don't.
A rough start for sure.
Meant to be this shining light, but in the last few games, he's looked bad.
Yeah, so it's true. Like I'm looking at his set. It's true. He was shocking. He went 285 and 257. That's terrible. And that's against EVOS. It's not like he was against a fantastic team. EVOS is.
And I mean, of course, KDA isn't everything, but.
But he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't setting players up.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything. He was just.
Yeah,
he was flashing and trying to make a play and then getting exploded.
Or he also is on a 7-game losing streak, by the way.
That doesn't help. That doesn't help.
Ugh.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like right now they're a little bit of a free win, which is a little unfortunate. They only play 1 series next week.
I will give them credit. Again, I like giving silver linings as... Oh my god, cameras again. What happened?
What is going on?
I'm not 100% sure. OBS is being weird. I'll get Vinnie back after I make my point. They're definitely not FTV style bad. They try. At least their games, they give it a go. They don't roll over and die very often. They fight, they lose the fights, and yeah, they lose the game, but at least they're fighting. FTV just FTV just went, why are we here? We are not good.
Yeah, it's true. They still look much better than the bottom 2 last split, which is funny because one of the 2 teams was actually just OPG with a few different players. But I still feel like they've
a different
evolved.
Top laner and no jungler.
Yeah.
Having the jungler helps, turns out.
Though different top laner might not have been a good choice.
I mean,
Vin has had a rough few weeks, man. Oh, man.
Vin compared to Django, I think it's a sort of are they the same player? I don't even know. It's like coin flip.
It's a bit of a lot.
Yeah, it's fair.
I am trying to get Vin back. Just
Vin has been a little bit... definitely has tanked a little bit in the last few weeks, where in the first week he looked quite impressive, but then... he has really struggled with wave manipulation, has been punished over and over again with early ganks, where he just overpushes his wave and then is exposed to a gank and just dies very early on. Afterwards, he goes like 0-4, gets solo killed in side lane by Artifact, for example, in the Team Secret series. Basically one shot because he has no MR and still goes up to him. It's like, there's a lot of problems with overpower top lane.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. Let's continue moving on. Oops. I just doxed my entire Discord. Lovely. Forgot I wasn't in studio mode. Ooh. Good job. Well, now you all know our run list, so you know we know what we're going to talk about. So continue, guys. I'm trying to fix tech issues. You got to carry for a sec. I'm fixing tech issues. Give me a break.
Fair enough. So let's talk about maybe about the meta read for 10.13. This was our first week on 10.13, and I feel like most of the changes have had an effect on the league. Syndra not so much. Syndra seems to still be bonkers OP. But Varus has definitely kind of been ignored most of the time. Callista and Aphelios have fallen.
He wasn't touched. That's the thing. He wasn't touched on the patch, so I think
he also was never played lethality, which is what was broken. Attack speed Varus wasn't broken.
He was played lethality in one game last week
Played him
by
lethality.
𝘀ence. Because they
True.
subbed 𝘀ence in
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
Rizal
bad.
for some reason.
Played is an overstatement. He was a bait. He was there to bait 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀 to overextend and trade ADC for ADC, which then backfired horribly because 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀's composition was all about the ADC and 𝘀 didn't give a shit about their ADC.
Yeah.
That was such
True.
a weird.
That was a very strange
Such
game.
a weird game.
Before we dive into the meta read, I think didn't you want to talk about 𝘀cie a little bit? He looked not bad. He got 𝘁𝗧, and he's always been feared on 𝘁𝗧. Even when he was considered a pretty bad ADC, he drew a 𝘁𝗧 ban even when 𝘁𝗧 was crap. This was before 𝘁𝗧's dominant.
But he did also look good on the Ashe when he played that.
True.
Even though they lost the game there. 𝘀cie looked very well coordinated with 𝘁, so I would really like to see him again. I thought he looked maybe even better than 𝘂𝑎𝑙𝑜𝑣. It's just close between the two. Definitely don't give me 𝘀ence again in bot lane. that was a failed experiment. That was a very bad game. But yeah, I feel like 𝘀cie could have a starting spot maybe on 𝘀. Maybe it's just competing for the starting spot. I would like to see more from him. I felt like he was definitely a good addition to the team.
Yeah, we kind of wrote the 𝘀ence 𝘀cie pickup off as I don't know why 𝘀 is spending money on this. Like, they're never going to see play. But I think 𝘀cie can definitely see play. I don't know if you guys are looking at the stats. Do you know what 𝘀ence's KDA is?
Oh, it's
not great, probably.
Terrible.
It's 0.3.
Oh
He's played
God,
2 games. He's only played 2 games, to be fair.
Hey, he won one of those games.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything on them in that win.
He went 2-7 and 11.
Reminder, they won the game where he was
2-7
inting on 𝘂𝘀.
Went 2-7. It was shocking. They did win that game, though. That was just hard smurfing by Levi and Dia1.
𝘂𝗏.
Yeah, especially
𝘂𝗏.
𝘂𝗏.
Was it the 𝘂𝗏 game?
That game was all 𝘂𝗏 on.
Yeah, it's a quadra kill for 𝘂𝗏 on
right.
the Sylas. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Sylas game. But yeah, let's move on from players.
And then they lost the next game because 𝘂𝗏 decided to can't carry.
That was very strange.
The series was so bad overall. It was just a horrible series to watch.
Sorry, I diverted us a little bit. We were going to talk about the meta read. I don't think the meta read's been terrible in the VCS, if I'm honest.
No.
The ADCs have been weird. The complete lack of 𝘂𝗀 was super weird, but I mean, is he still good? I don't know. I don't know if he's still
good.
I don't think he's busted.
It's just a matter of our VCS AD carries good at 𝘂𝗀.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird
The
one.
answer is no, that's a problem unless nerfs come in.
I mean,
also, are the teams actually good at playing 𝘂𝗀?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the big standout weird meta read is the lack of 𝘂𝗀. Other than that, VCS is picking what's good. I think they're building Orianna wrong, and I know Yulwei molds about that because they keep picking Orianna, who's fantastic, and then not building tier and being like, why does our Orianna not do damage?
It's quite infuriating, man. I look at those Oriannas like, please, just build tier.
So the lack of inability to play might not be so much of an issue because there are nerfs on 10-14.
Yeah, he's not very good on 10.
𝘁𝗏's actually having a very bad time right now. She's 1-4 on 10-13 in VCS.
Yeah,
quite surprising.
It's a bit weird.
Yeah, she's. I feel like 𝘁𝗏 has lost a lot of her insta-win capabilities because teams are able to handshake lane against 𝘁𝗏, and she's not really providing teams with that much priority anymore. And then in team fights, of course, she's just inferior to most of the other ADCs. So I actually really don't like 𝘁𝗏 for teams that are not aggressive enough to make her work, teams that don't dive bot lane and get her like 2-3 kills to really get her head. So I would like to see, like, 𝘀 is allowed to play 𝘁𝗏 in my opinion. They are super aggressive. I can see maybe someone like EVOS play 𝘁𝗏 because 𝘀𝘀 and 𝘂𝗏 are very good bot lane. Slater, but no other team should really touch 𝘁𝗏 in my opinion.
I agree.
We are seeing Ashe as a pretty good pick into 𝘁𝗏 where people are able to gimp quite a lot of her damage just by being 𝘃.
Yeah. And this is 𝘃 with no approach velocity. Bugged. Just saying. There were
Which,
a few...
I mean, isn't a rune... Not having approach velocity doesn't kill the champion. It just makes
No, it just makes her chase down a little.
Not broken.
It just makes her chase down a bit weaker. I mean, I think the VCS bug was the funniest. The Predator bug. Did you guys hear? Did you guys hear why it was banned?
No.
If you popped Predator and ulted, you couldn't be CC'd until you died. You were just immune. You were just completely
okay, so you turned into Olaf. Nice.
Yeah, permanent Olaf ult. And it's not till the ult ran out, it was until you died.
Sounds quite strong.
A little bit.
Turns out, not being able to be CC'd ever is good.
Pretty good.
Because that's actually one of VCS's biggest problems, looking at the stats. 7 picks in the last week.
The VCS's been
1 win.
I don't understand.
VCS has been very bad. He has been so useless.
We came up with the bear scale, and apparently the bushfires didn't really affect the koala population. They just went to Vietnam.
No.
Because there's been some koala bears in these VCS games.
They all have been so bad. He's such a bad champ in the late game, especially if your team doesn't have anything to start the fight other than VCS. He just runs in, ults in, doesn't do any damage, gets kited, gets stunned, dies. It's like, nice.
I mean,
can I please have a different champion now?
The no engage comps, they're bad. They're not good.
They are not the greatest, yeah.
You need some engage. That's
a lot of
some damage too.
Yeah. There's been a lot where it's just VCS in the jungle and maybe set as your engage. It's not really gonna work.
Yeah, I mean they just both run at you, right? Like you just kite them.
Yeah, especially with the new set build, both don't really bring any damage, right? Especially if it's set support, VCS jungle, both go full tank, and they're like big dudes jumping at you, but they don't deal any damage. It's like, okay, whatever, we'll just run away and kill you.
It's definitely the bear squad.
At least can't CC and has true damage, so he has something.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, if he can land that true damage, which also isn't super easy, so... Yeah.
Unless it's Baron.
Yeah. Yeah, fair point.
Apparently, yeah. The Baron true damage buff because junglers just smite early. I hate that people are trying to excuse that. Like, oh, it's 20 health. It's like, that happens. It's like, you're not against a smite. Let it go 100 below the threshold just to make sure. There is no competing smite. You do not need to take that, like, 1 microsecond risk. It's just silly.
Yeah, absolutely not.
That still shouldn't have happened. But let's not dwell on it. It was just one incident. What else is there anything else we really want to talk about? We're not doing power rankings. We're going to do power rankings every 2 weeks so that every team gets to play 6 series. But
maybe quickly run through our predictions for the week, just to tease them.
Need to have a look at what specific games we have. I don't always
this week.
It's just really quickly like a quick fire prediction. Cerberus against %.
Cerberus against %. Cerberus 2-0.
Cerberus 2-0 probably.
Cerberus 2-0, but I think it'll be a competitive.
Again, 2-0. A deceptive 2-0, but a 2-0.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Flash against 𝘀𝗀.
𝘀𝗀. I think 𝘀𝗀 will just flip. And I think it'll be a 2-0. I mean, maybe it's a 2-1.
I think it could be a 2-1.
Yeah, but I still think 𝘀𝗀.
I'm pretty good 2-1 𝘀𝗀 as well.
Looking a lot better, but
2-1 I think is fair. But I think 𝘀𝗀 will just
screw up an early game and
makes a lot of sense.
And
the next one is %EVOS.
Well. I will
probably.
So what was the next one?
%EVOS.
2-0%.
Very important series.
2-0%.
You
% can play the map.
You kind of have to give it to % off thing, but
like,
I mean, EVOS looked pretty good in terms of individual.
This is a lot of upset potential, in my opinion.
I mean, like, EVOS got their first win, but it was against OPG, guys. That's barely a win.
Early games are looking better, and %'s early games are not the greatest.
Yeah, and like %'s individual laners are not great.
Maybe it's
Again,
2-1.
everyone except Glory
That mid
falls
laner is
behind in
such a
lane.
bad player, man. It's so sad.
Yeah, % mid laner. Get him out of there.
Everyone except mid lane consistently falls behind in gold early.
I still think, I just don't think EVOS can flip 2 games. Maybe 1. I would still predict a 2-0.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to predict a 2-0, but I will admit a 2-1 is.
Interesting. Okay, I predict 2-1. Winnie, where do you go?
I'm predicting 2-0, but I'm actually really kind of nervous that this is.
Yeah, it's this one is really a little bit nerve wracking for
I feel
percent.
it's partially stylistic matchup that throws it that way. So
I agree. This one could be really big for EVOS if they can win against percent here. They are suddenly 2-4 after 4 weeks, which of course isn't great, but also way better than 0-4 2 weeks ago, right? So I feel like this could be the start of the resurgence.
There's no question that EVOS is on the up. I don't think they're only going to have 1 win or split. They will beat teams, no question. Maybe they start here. It's possible, but I'm not predicting it. Definitely
4th series, 2nd series on Saturday. Saigon Buffalo against Cerberus. This shouldn't be too hard to predict.
Obviously, Buffalo. 2-0. They're going to stop.
Oh, man.
It's obvious. Yeah, 2-0 Buffalo. Middle 6 is just too OP.
I mean, there's a chance for a Husmed game. That's true.
No.
There's a chance, but Cerberus is going to 2-0.
Not against Cerberus. I really didn't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't predict it, but there's a snowball's chance, right?
Yeah, maybe. OPG against Flash isn't too interesting either. It's just
it's going to be
getting slammed again.
It's going to be a terrible series, but Flash will win.
Yeah, I think this might be the new worst series of our league.
I don't think so because of how they. I don't know because of how they play.
Yeah.
There's no EVOS to just arbitrarily accelerate the game. So
I mean, OPG flips a lot too. OPG are flippers.
No. OPG doesn't flip a lot. PHT flips a lot.
Yeah.
OPG contests every single objective, even though they don't have to. I'd call them.
I'd call them a whole team of omelet chefs. Definitely getting some big flips in there.
All right.
The last series, Gam against Team Secret.
2-0.
The big one.
It's got to be Team
Finally,
Secret.
we're going to have a nice
2-1. Very bold.
You say
I think there's a very good chance that there's just an early game that Gam does Gam.
There's a chance.
There's just a chance they just pick 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗋𝗀 again. And Team Secret is like,
very good chance.
Like, what the hell do we do?
Look, there's a chance. I think it's going to be a 2-0, but I absolutely see the chance.
I think
2-1 is
that. My prediction is 2-0 as well, but yeah. I can see Gam winning.
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at Gam's form in their first series as well. If they look good, I think there's a good chance for 2-1. But I think it's pretty firmly that Team Secret will get 2. I think that's very firm.
Yeah.
So, that's all the games. That's our predictions. That's a few players to watch. That's a few matches to watch. That you should watch every match. We'll be casting all of them, of course. We don't skip games. We crack on.
Oh, I wish we did.
Hey, you don't have to cast them. You just do analyst. To be fair.
I still have to be there for them.
You do. But, I mean, look, I think just reflecting on us a little bit, our production quality's flown up. I want to once again thank 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀𝗀 for that. He has been absolutely carrying that section of the broadcast. All of these graphics. Actually, I think this specific graphic was Peng, I think. But on actual broadcast, it's all 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀. All of the backgrounds, all of the text, everything is 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀. He is absolutely smurfing. It is insane. And he's doing it for free because we don't make money, unfortunately.
And we don't shout out some of the other guys enough. So shout out to like Panda and 𝘁cie𝗰𝗋.
Yeah, they do a lot behind the scenes. That's true. They manage all the social media. None of us really touch the social media at all.
I can barely handle my own.
I mean, I don't even have a Facebook. So I can't really do the Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do a heap. We have a really, really engaged community, which is great. We have a fantastic community. I love them. even though I flame them all the time. I do love it. I do love you guys. You should join the Discord. I don't think I have a link below this stream. I should. But if you go to the main channel, VCS English, there's a link there. Maybe one of you can also post it in chat if you want. Discord window, or I'll dox everything.
Right.
But yeah, our content team is always putting things. I can't dox you guys. I can only dox myself. They are constantly putting things out. They're constantly putting out articles. There's some really good memes on Twitter and Facebook if you're interested. If you use Facebook, I don't know who does. Apparently Vietnamese people. But yeah, with that, unless you have any final words, we've gone just over an hour, and we can crack on and have the rest of our night/day. You guys have any sign-offs?
I think the next week is going to be the best so far. A lot of very cool matchups. I'm very excited for most of them. Team Secret against 𝘀𝗀. The first 1% against who was it again? Percent against Cerberus, right. Those should be the highlights, first and last best of 3, but in between, very good matchups as well. Percent against EVOS, Cerberus against 𝘀𝗀𝗵𝗹𝗀, and so on. So I feel like this will be the new highlight week. So stay tuned.
This is definitely going to be the best week so far. Vinny, anything to sign off with?
Last week was a shit show, but it's still a lot of fun.
It had some good games.
Everything's fun. We did have an excellent series between Secret and Percent last week.
Yeah, I don't want to shame.
Yeah, it wasn't a total shit show.
That was worth the week.
That was a great series. And I think it's VCS. VCS is still great.
It's so much fun.
Like, we have shit shows every now and again, but it's fine.
It was very fun though. But with that,
we know what we signed up for.
Sorry, go ahead. Yulwei, do you have something to say?
Part of the fun, I just said.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Shit shows need to happen here.
With that, this is going to be the end of the episode 20 of the EveryWei podcast. Thanks everyone for joining in. Really appreciate it. Hope you're here next week. We're going to try and do it same day, same time every week. We weren't consistent last split. We would miss weeks and stuff, which was pretty bad. We're going to try and be super consistent, bring you our opinions on the VCS. Always feel free to participate in chat as well. I am reading it, so if you've got opinions during the show, bring them up. We'll try and address them if we can. But yeah, with that, good night, everyone. Good night, Vinny. Good afternoon, Yulwei. And everyone have a good one. We'll be seeing you next week.